If you want to continue with the story, there's a CNN video on it.
The CEO of one
All
of
right,
the
we'll
biggest...
cover it in a second. Hold on. Ominous words from Senator Schumer after the Gang of Eight briefing on Iran. Yeah, I already covered that. All right, here, Leah, let's look at Hegset's arguments.
in the world is meeting with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth today as the Pentagon threatens to essentially blacklist that company, Anthropic, from lucrative government contracts if the AI company doesn't lift its restrictions on how the military can use its technology. The Pentagon has a $200 million contract with Anthropic. And a source tells CNN that the company has concerns over two issues: AI-controlled weapons and mass domestic surveillance of American citizens. Let's talk about this with Jacob Ward. He is a technology journalist and host of the Rip Current podcast. He's also the author of the book, The Loop: How AI is Creating a World Without Choices and How to Fight Back. Jacob, the Pentagon here wants this company, Anthropic, to lift its restrictions for how the military uses its model. They want it to be able to be used for what's they're calling all lawful use. What are Anthropic's concerns with that?
Well, Brianna, this is a very unusual situation in my experience, because typically when government use of technology begins, that means that new restraints are going to be put onto that company. The companies typically, traditionally, just pull toward greater and greater capabilities, and the assumption is that the government and democracy will somehow dampen down the dangers here. What Anthropic is discovering is that they don't live in that world anymore. Suddenly, they're dealing with a Defense Department that wants to be able to use their technology for whatever they want. And Dario Amodei, the CEO of this company, who has written very openly about his concerns that his technology and the industry in general could be misused for all sorts of authoritarian purposes, is specifically objecting to the possibility that we could be using this technology to surveil Americans en masse, or to create weapons that fire themselves and kill people without human intervention. Supposedly the trigger here for him in part was discovering that his work was in fact used in the capture of Nicolas Maduro through Anthropic's partner Palantir in a way that he didn't know anything about. He evidently found out about that the same way we all did. And it is this effort inside a company that is making this world-changing technology to try to impose some restrictions on that technology that now has him running afoul of the Pentagon, Brianna.
Can you talk a little bit about how AI maybe has been used for, say, controlling weapons and mass surveillance, and what concerns that usage has raised?
Well, according to the reports we're seeing, Anthropic's technology, which is the only company, by the way, that is allowed inside the most classified systems in the military, is being used for all sorts of things that it's supposedly great at, including things like cyber offense. You need to be able to exchange digital fire with an opponent in nanosecond time scales that human beings could never be part of. That's an incredible use of it. But at the same time, what AI makes possible is things like, there's technology that we've seen, research that we've seen. That
AI is for plausible deniability. That's it. You can use it when it's not supposed to have a 100% success rate. It's good for creating new targets. If you don't care about what happens to those targets, whether it's for deportation or whether it's for kinetic strikes, okay? It's utilized by insurance companies like United Healthcare to deny people their valid claims for coverage. That's what the AI is for. It's not for something that's supposed to have a 100% success rate. Israel was using AI in Gaza, as we know, to create new targets. Why were they able to do so? Well, they were able to do so because they were killing as many civilians as possible. They didn't need to make sure that these targets were like actual valid targets. They're doing a genocide.
That could turn a Wi-Fi router into essentially a radar inside a home that could tell you exactly where somebody was at any given time. It is the pattern recognition power of AI, something that a team of people, in a vast building, or a bunch of people with headphones on in a van could never imagine. As a surveillance technology, it is incredible. In fact, it's so incredible that Dario Amodei actually wrote recently, he said here, Powerful AI looking across billions of conversations from millions of people could gauge public sentiment, detect pockets of disloyalty forming, and stamp them out before they grow. That's the kind of concern that Amadei has here.
Unbelievable. I mean, when you talk about the possibilities here. So the way this threat would kind of operate is Axios is reporting that the Pentagon would deem that they're threatening to deem Anthropic a what's called a supply chain risk. That would essentially blacklist Anthropic from having government contracts. It's an approach that's usually taken with companies that are extensions of foreign adversaries like China or Russia. If Anthropic doesn't play ball here, because as you say, they're unique in that they kind of plug into this top secret nature of the U.S. systems, is there another company that can provide those same AI services and that would be willing to capitulate on these potential human rights and civil liberties concerns?
Yeah, can we find one that'll play ball? we need machine, like robots are going to kill people, okay? Whether you like it or not. Robots are going to fucking start slaughtering people. Which one is going to do it for us?
Well, according to the reporting that we're seeing right now, Anthropic is the one that they want to use. And one defense official told Axios that the reason we are talking to these guys is because they are so good. That is the problem that the Defense Department is facing. But while you say, you know, Anthropic is unique, it's not entirely unique, and it has some very close competitors. You have Google, you have Meta, and you have...
You're too simple-minded. You don't understand that technology advances and we have to submit. We have to build the torment nexus or else our competitors will. Yeah, no, I get it. My mistake, big dog. I was wrong. Someone's got to build the fucking torture orphan annihilator machine, you know? And that someone's going to be us, obviously.
Have XAI, which is Elon Musk's company. All of them have, are in line for this possible contract. And at least one of them, and according to Axios, that's XAI, that's Elon Musk's company, has said they can use it without any safeguards whatsoever. They won't be bringing any of this, internal hand-wringing to it. They'll say, you go ahead and use it in any way you want. And it may be that that could cost Anthropic this $200 million contract unless the Defense Department figures out that that technology is irreplaceable truly. But at this point, the heat is on in terms of the competition technologically. And so it seems to me that this is a real pickle that Dario Amadei has gotten into. You are worried about the use of your technology. You're trying to impose what you consider some ethical constraints on it. And that suddenly could cost you a $200 million contract. This is that thing where, the rubber meets the road when you try to be an ethical business leader. In the end, we're talking here just broadly here, Brianna, about like, who controls AI and under what terms are they going to? All of these stories are basically one big story about the future of this technology and who is going to control it. And I think what could happen next is you could see somebody with fewer scruples, fewer ethical qualms, stepping up to the mic and saying, I'm going to go ahead and give you whatever you need here.
New reporting from Axios details just how tense this meeting actually could be, with one defense official saying Anthropic knows this is not a get-to-know-you meeting, this is not a friendly meeting, this is a shit or get off the pot meeting. What led to this moment? Reporting by Axios that the Pentagon is threatening to cut ties with and cut off Anthropic. The company, if the company continues to say that the military should not use their AI for mass surveillance or fully autonomous weapons. The top Democrat on the House Science and Tech Committee was just on the show. Here's her take.
Anthropic is trying to do the right thing, so far as I can tell, and put their own guardrails in.
Well, it turns out, no, that's not the case, because they're literally telling Pete Hegseth that they had no, that they actually never complained to Palantir about their tools being utilized for mass surveillance on like domestic ICE occupation operations.
Even in the absence of legislation.
After Claude helped them with Maduro, they can't use anything else. Crazy the U.S. government got hooked after a free trial.
I think, as best I can tell, the Pentagon is trying to talk Anthropic out of doing the responsible thing.
Joining me now is one of the reporters behind all of this new detail and reporting, Dave Lawler, the national security editor for Axios. It's good to see you again, Dave. Tell me more about what you're hearing in terms of what could happen in this meeting and come out of it.
Sure. So the Pentagon is saying it is unacceptable for Anthropic to put any limitations on how they use their model. They're saying that if you're a contractor with the military, you give us your tool and we use it however we see fit. But Anthropic is saying we have some concerns. We have built our software with some safeguards in it around things, as you mentioned, like surveillance or developing weapons that fire without humans. We're not willing to drop those guardrails. The Pentagon is saying, if you won't play ball, if you won't come over to our way of thinking, we will cut off your contract. And there are a plethora of other penalties that we could apply, including this supply chain risk designation to Anthropic, to basically say that anyone who does business with the Pentagon cannot do business with Anthropic. So, a lot of brinksmanship leading up.
Why do you think Anthropic is pushing back? They must see some kind of future legal risk in it, right? I think so. I think that the reasoning is quite obvious. I mean, the AI could literally fucking take control over targeting systems and literally laser U.S. soldiers. That's a likelihood. Like, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. If the AI just makes a calculation, if it has somewhere in its code, it has like a utilitarian concept of like preserving safety of life or whatever, something could go fucking haywire and just start lasering the American soldiers instead. Okay. Then there's also the other side of the story, which is they could be held liable. They don't want to go to fucking Nuremberg and have to deal with the legal repercussions of having their AI systems be responsible for killing a bunch of children, or even if that's even a thing that we prosecute for. Let's be real, it's probably not going to happen. But responsible for killing Americans. Notice how I'm not talking about like the individual engineers and their moral arguments against it, because I live in the real world and I don't think that these guys have any sort of fucking moral issue with this. I'm sorry. Some engineers might. They have no tool to push back. So U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei until Friday to drop the company's restrictions on its advanced AI model Claude. Can be used by the Pentagon, including its bans on mass domestic surveillance and autonomous lethal operations, or face losing its military contract. It could also face the possibility of supply chain risk labeling and the use of the Defense Production Act to compel access, sources told Associated Press.
One reason.
This was Anthropic CEO's refusal to back down on the Pentagon. They're saying they're inconsistent. Like, in public, they're saying they don't like it, but in private, it seems, according to the reporting that we just read earlier, in the private closed-door meeting that they have with Pete Hegseth, they were like, no, actually, we don't have any objections.
The autonomous drone swarm, right? So, the constitutional protections in our military structures depend on the idea that there are humans who would, we hope, disobey illegal orders. With fully autonomous weapons, we don't necessarily have those protections. But I actually think this whole idea of constitutional rights and liberty
I know what it looks like. I know many people that are wonderful engineers that work on the defense side who just want to build cool shit, and slowly but surely they move in that direction. Okay. They have no unions. They have no mechanism of pushback. Even if they have, and Murat doesn't work on this stuff, so I'm not talking about him. Okay? But there are plenty of people that just like went to college, really covering for your bro. No, he doesn't. Shut the fuck up. There are people in this chat who are engineers in similar companies. Some of them obviously don't want to do this, but they internally don't have a mechanism of pushback at all. They don't have labor unions. And their bosses don't give a shit. Their bosses want to make these weapons because, that means they're going to get better contracts from the government, unlimited money from the government. That's it. So even if they have an issue with it, even if they take issue with it personally, even if they want this to stop, for example, they have no way of getting the government to stop or getting the company to stop. No one joins. No one goes into engineering because they're like, I can't wait to make fucking baby murder machines. Most people want to build rockets to go to space. And the only companies that are hiring to build rockets are building rockets to murder children. That's it. You'd be surprised. Okay, some of them do. Some of them are freaks. I don't know any of them.
Many different dimensions, can be undermined by AI if we don't update these protections appropriately. So, think about the Fourth Amendment. It is not illegal to, put cameras around everywhere in public space and, record every conversation. It's a public space. You don't have a right to privacy in a public space. But today, the government couldn't record that all and make sense of it. Right. With AI, the ability to transcribe speech, to look through it, correlate it all, you could say, oh, there's this, this person is a member of the opposition. This person is expressing this view.
Yes.
And make a map of all, 100 million. And so are you going to make a mockery of the Fourth Amendment by...
I went into engineering to build Doggenheimer. Okay. To build the one weapon to rule them all, so I could shock all the dogs around the world by going place. And when I press that button, every dog around the planet gets shocked.
By the technology, finding kind of technical ways around it. And so, again, if we had the time, and we should do this, we should try to do this even if we don't have the time, is there some way of reconceptualizing constitutional rights and liberties in the age of AI? Like, we don't need to write a new constitutional, but,
but you have to do this very
fast.
Do
we expand the meaning of the Fourth Amendment? Do we expand the meaning of the First Amendment?
The squirrels, thank you. You're welcome. And I hope the cats also thank me for that. I'm going to war with the dogs on the side of the cats. Anyway, all the stuff sucks. It's all terrible. Also, speaking of terrible, John Fetterman. John Fetterman proudly welcomed AIPAC and a survivor of the Bondi Beach Massacre, a living reminder of the global scourge of anti-Semitism. My voice and vote will always stand and proudly support the global Jewish community and our special ally. He's posted up with his handlers. The ogre shouts out John Fetterman. Wonderful stuff. Bloomberg reports the focus on NATO's air surveillance in Turkey has shifted from Russia to Iran as the risk of a U.S.-led military campaign against Tehran mounts. Turkey's making preparations for a possible U.S.-led strike against Iran, which could force Tehran to make concessions on issues including its nuclear program. The government in Ankara has growing concerns about the likelihood of such a conflict, fearing it could trigger a new influx of refugees into Turkey and weigh heavily on the country's struggling economy. Turkey is preparing for a possible United States strike against Iran and is also considering entering Iranian territory in the event of a power vacuum that prevent refugees from crossing into Turkey, according to Bloomberg News. They'll most likely just go and fight the Kurdish militias there, which will probably be in support. Ironically enough, it will be in support of the Iranian government's goals of maintaining stability. Yalandılar oğlum, yalandılar. So yeah, that's the side of the. I think we've covered the Iran stuff sufficiently. There's a couple different things going on. One of the things that's happening is this Hunter College saga. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about the growing concerns. Many friends of mine have sent me this article from Jewish Insider that was posted by one of my ops, Josh Kraushar. Hell of a story by Matthew Cassell. Matthew Cassell is another op of mine. Features reporter at Jewish Insider, Matthew Cassell. Okay. Jewish Democrats alarmed about whether their party will remain welcoming.